So, I work in the world's oldest profession, and I love what I do.
Prostitution?
Yes.
We got that from that guy right there.
And recently, someone has decided they would like to make a documentary about my work and my life. And I'm really excited about it. I've been doing this for long enough that I'm very comfortable with
What is
sharing.
the world's oldest profession? It really is?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we thought we were so clever.
Yeah.
And so?
And so, I get to be much more public in the world about what I do and how I do it, and share the side of it that people don't think exists. And as I'm being more public...
What is your intent in this? In other words, what is your dominant reason?
When I share what I do and how I do it, it changes people's minds about their own sensuality. And I've seen this over and over again in the last 8 years or so, that it helps them eliminate the shame that they have. And not everybody has it, but oftentimes they bump into me and they say, oh, wow, I didn't realize that it could actually be really good and really fun and beautiful. And every time I tell people what I do, they ask me question after question, and they light up and they become a different person.
And so your question of us is?
How can I make sure my vibration is in a good place so that as this become more public?
That's why we asked the question about what is the why behind it. And so you're saying to us that you've discovered in your own experience of it connection. Mm-hmm. And so you believe that there is potential connection for others. So you want this subject to be an uplifting subject to them rather than a subject that is not so uplifting. In other words, is it about wanting to transform how people feel about it?
Well, not necessarily how people feel about the industry, but how people feel about themselves. Yes. Yeah.
The only encouragement that we're wanting to offer here is that if you stay focused toward the feeling of freedom, the feeling of naturalness, the feeling of sensuality, the feeling of connection, the feeling of being tuned in, the feeling of attraction, the feeling of wholeness or oneness or focus that is all present in the subject. If you're focused on those things, then you'll be in alignment with source energy, and the things that you do and the things that you say and the way you present it will be in alignment with what your inner being knows to be, because your inner being is at one with all of that. But if your intention is to change minds so that you're pushing against perception or pushing against how anybody else feels about anything, now you get into those resistant places where you lose your connection, and then your lyrics don't match your own music, you see. It's interesting that it's not just what humans in fun, really, usually call the world's oldest profession. It is the most essential part of physical beingness. In other words, it is the perpetuation of the species, and it is the expression, the greatest expression of co-creation. And so there is so much about that that is misunderstood, and there are so many people, not just on this subject, but on almost every subject in the world, that miss so much of the pleasure that they could experience because of beliefs and preconceived notions that they've received from others. So they approach the subject from a place of such contradiction and such entanglement that they experience it in fragmented form rather than in a continuous form. We think that as you think about it, that you could approach all of this in a way that would be far less resistant in nature. In other words, there's a sensationalism that is around what you're doing, and there's a shock factor. And the reason that producers and people that are involved in it want to do it that way is because they want to shock the audience, because they live in a world where they believe a shocked audience is the biggest audience, and it is. But the audience that you're looking for is not the shocked audience, and it's not the biggest audience either.
Yeah, I don't think that that's what we're aiming at. The person who has decided they want to make this documentary seems to be very well aligned with, we're just going to make it and let it be there and see what happens and see who's a good match to it.
Just get yourself lined up with why.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Enough?
One more. There's a little bit more resistance that I found is I'm comfortable doing this. And some of my friends and family and partners are a little bit afraid for me being so public about what could happen. And so I'm reminding them that they don't all believe in the law of attraction, but I'm reminding them about everything that I already have put in place.
That's the thing about this. Some years ago, Esther's Jerry wrote a paper for business people that he was tutoring. And the title of the paper was, Keep Your Ideas to Yourself Until They Are Fully Developed. Because once your ideas are fully developed and you are really in sync with who you are, now the resistance is slight enough that it will not hinder you. But if you involve others who don't know what you know, who don't want what you want, who aren't you, and you care about what they think, that's what we meant when we said approach it in a different way. The way you delivered it to us was not the way we just encouraged you to go about it. In other words, you delivered it to us for the shock factor. You did. And it was so out of character with what's going on here that we played back with you because there's no reason for anyone to be upset about the most natural thing in the world. Those impulses come from source energy. This is a subject that has been so convoluted and so controlled, or so attempted to be controlled and yet never controlled from the beginning of human experience, that you're asking a lot of yourself to explain to the whole world. So don't try to explain it to the whole world. Just explain it to those who are ready. And most of the people that you know are not ready. They're not ready. And you have to let them not be ready. It has to be all right with you if they don't understand. That has to be all right with you. Otherwise, you've got resistance. It has to be all right with you if they never understand. But you have to get yourself in a place where it's so all right with you if they don't understand that you don't push back at them at all. Don't try to talk anybody in to understanding what you're doing or why you're going about it. You've picked a really big subject so that you can come to this understanding. This is the understanding of greatest freedom that could come to anyone. When you reach the place where it doesn't matter to you what humans around you get you or don't get you, because you understand the futility of that. You understand the layers and intricacies of beliefs and intentions and things that are happening in your population. And so what you're doing is being true to your intentions and true to your alignment with source energy. And you're not asking anybody else to understand anything. But it's fascinating that so often those like you who are out on the leading edge, you take the most controversial subjects in the whole world, these subjects that more people have more resistance about than everything else put together, and you say, I choose this, and if you really love me, you'll go along with it. Well, they're not gonna, and that's got to be all right with you.
So kind of like coming on the cruise when the coronavirus thing was freaking people out, and I was like, no, I don't really.
Kind of like everything.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.